All right, we are live at 6:01. Caucus is in session. Agenda, anyone with anything to add? Seeing nothing, moving on to fiscal officer's report. In light of Mrs. Canada's absence this evening, which is excused, Mr. Schmidt, will you provide that report for us this evening?
Yes, sir. Just the bills tonight.
Thank you. Council minutes, has everyone had a chance to review? And then finally, is everyone familiar with tonight's one piece of legislation? Okay, it is 6:01. Caucus is closed.
At this time, I'd like to call to order McDonald Village Council meeting for Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Roll.
Mr. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Lewis,
Here?
Mr. Fisher,
Present.
Mr. DeZee,
Here.
Mr. Schmidt,
Present.
and Mr. Joins.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Miss Canada is on vacation and Mr. Dimitrovich is at his son's track meet. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence for troops serving here and abroad, and also the Lord's Prayer if you so choose. Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy
Thy kingdom come,
thy will
thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
On to item number 3, approval of council meeting minutes for March 17th, 2021.
Move to approve as mailed.
Moved by Councilman Fisher to approve these as mailed. Discussion? Roll.
Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. DeZee?
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Next item is adoption of tonight's agenda.
Move to adopt as is.
Moved by Councilman Fisher to adopt tonight's agenda as is. Discussion? Roll.
Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. DeZee?
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Moving on to the mayor's monthly court report. Computer Fund 1, $180. Computer Fund 2, $3. Court costs, $465. Overpayment or adjustments, $1. City revenue from fines, $1,160. Niles Municipal Court fines, $857.40. Parking tickets, $135. Police reports, $10. Total to the city of $2,811.40. The next thing we have today is I do have a resignation letter or retirement letter from Chief Todd Stitt. I'd like to read into the record. So I write this letter to announce my formal retirement as a fire chief from the McDonald Fire Department effective April 30th, 2021. My career in the fire service started with the McDonald Fire Department in April of 1981. I would like to thank you for all the great opportunities you have given me as a fire chief for the village of McDonald. I have enjoyed working with you, members of council, and the fire department, and I'm ready to move on to the next phase of my life. Sincerely, Chief Stitt.
May I like to make the motion to move to accept the Chief Stitt's letter of retirement.
Moved by Councilman DeZ to accept Chief Stitt's retirement letter. Discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I guess I'm the old guy, I had the joy watching Todd come up through the ranks. I got on in 1977. And to watch the young guys come in and, really have to have a love for the job and a love for your village, and you look at Todd's heart, it's all there. All those years, all the things that he volunteered for, and he did it willingly, and you could just see the caring and the love for our village. You don't replace people like that. It's a legend. Everybody that served with him, around him, always positive, always on the move to do the right things, and brought so many programs up to a different level. The training, all the things looking for something better in the future, always modernizing and bringing people up to date. And, he's a caring individual. When you're dealing with volunteers, in a lot of these instances, you're gelling things back and forth. Have a chief that understands that, and to keep these people active, keep them going, and, a leader for all these years in the different ranks that he's held through here in the different fire departments. But, when he come from here, he's homegrown, he's from here, and just a joy to have. And I enjoy your retirement, Todd, but the memories I have will last a lifetime.
Yeah, if I could just take a minute, Mayor. Yeah, and Harvey's even living in his house, right? So, I've known Todd since August of 1977, and I appreciate the years of service he's given. But, on top of that, he's a great guy. He's one of my favorites. Like I said, I've known him forever. That level of dedication, that's a long time, 40 years. It's a lot of service to the village. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Chief Stitt, thank you so much for all you did in your time. It's much appreciated. You've done a fantastic job. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
If I may, Mayor.
Mhm.
Yeah, the solution is relatively simple. Let's just not accept his letter of resignation. We can continue to compel him to work. That would be my recommendation to council. But all joking aside, Chief, it's been a pleasure, my pleasure to work with you, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I do want to congratulate you. I've known Todd since I was a kid, and he, we had, more or less an opening for a chief's job. He's the first one that came to mind. The rest of the fire department loves him. We love him, and we'll be sad to see him go. But obviously, congratulations, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, that's all I have today. So moving on to reports of village officials. For our village administrator today, he did give me his report to be read on the record. So Thomas is working on combining off-street paving projects at the Ramsey Pavilion, new parking area, connected to the municipal building and water tower driveway, with a small emergency repair project on the 800th block of Oregon Avenue. He's working with the Fire Social Organization to prepare for a Memorial Day event. We're all very excited about that. I think it brings back a little sense of normalcy. He's communicating with Solicitor Ross, the Ohio Department of Aging, on a new and revised orders regarding the senior centers. Hopefully we can open those up soon. He is reviewing Senate Bill 22. This bill is sure to change our day-to-day operations effective June 23rd. He is working with Suez Incorporated for necessary water tower inspection. Results will be forthcoming. And he would like to thank Jacqueline Kuntz for her efforts to prepare a Easter event for our youth. Jacqueline and the rest of her Girl Scout troop and their troops' moms organized a sidewalk chalk Easter program. Judging and drawings awarded prizes. She had around 20 participants. Sad that the egg hunts were canceled by the Ohio Department of Health. But great job by our local Girl Scout troop to keep the theme alive in the village of McDonald. So that was his report. Comments or questions?
Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
Although a little out of order, our wise office manager made a note that there's still a motion pending on the floor from Mr. DeZ to accept Chief Stitt's resignation. If we could circle back to that.
Oh, yeah, that's my fault. Roll.
Mr. DeZ,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Lewis,
Reluctantly, aye.
Mr. Fisher,
No, well, aye.
Mr. Schmidt,
I guess I'll go with aye.
and Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Mr. Ross, you really messed up my plan. If there was no vote.
I thought something was up.
Believe me,
played,
the
Mayor,
text
well played.
messaging was going out there.
I was gonna go with it because normally I'd say something, but I thought
I didn't think you were going to literally follow my joking advice.
Right, Mayor.
Yeah. Moving on to our police chief, Chief Woodley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, Mr. Lewis can correct me if I have misinformation, but it's my understanding he heard from Bo Urban today from Claiborne Ford. The new cruiser's expected arrival date is what, like 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, so Claiborne Ford received the invoice today, which usually means about 2 weeks from arrival. So we're ahead of schedule on that, which is really good news.
That's really good news, yes, sir. Everybody received my activity report for the month of March. If anybody has any questions, be happy to entertain those. And lastly, I want to congratulate the fire chief and wish him the best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Well deserved. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Comments or questions for Chief Woodley? Moving on to our fire chief, Chief Stitt.
Thank you, Mayor. My report was submitted. If anybody has any questions, I'll answer them now. If not, I thank you all. Bye.
Yeah. Comments or questions for Chief Stitt? Moving on to our solicitor, Mr. Ross.
Yeah, a couple of things. Circling back to a discussion committee meetings last night with the Sedgwick third-party administrator agreement. I did hear back from the representative. They're reluctant to make the couple changes that I wanted to make, but as indicated last night, the village should still proceed. So the next council meeting, you can put on the agenda if council so chooses, resolution to enter into those contracts. And I did confer with Mr. Fisher, and he's aware, so we can deal with that next meeting. Secondly, I did look a little harder at this director's revised order on COVID. Thomas and I could sit down whenever Thomas is available, but I'm optimistic that almost every activity the village is going to want to engage in or bring back will likely be a green light to do. So I'm looking forward to meeting with Thomas. We'll go through the list. We'll check them all off. And if there's any rules or protocols we need to put in place to make things work, we can do it. Any questions, let me know.
Okay. Comments or questions for Mr. Ross? Moving on to committee reports. President Pro Tem, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor. We met this evening for Caucus closed at 6:01. We discussed the agenda, fiscal officer's report, council minutes, and tonight's legislation. Only thing I had additionally is kind of to piggyback off of Mr. Ross's comments. I just want to reiterate my statement from last evening, just giving a thank you to Mr. Ross for all of your advice throughout this, trying pandemic, and to our mayor, Mr. Puckett, and our administrator, Mr. Dmitrovich, for despite what you may feel personally with regard to things being for or against, but you followed the rules as they have been stated, and I commend you for that. So I'm extremely thankful, both as a member of council and as a village resident. That is all.
Thank you. Comments or questions for Mr. Lewis? Moving on to our Parks and Buildings Chair, Mr. Joins.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by congratulating Chief Stitt and thanking him for all his years of service to the village. I know I've seen you around most of my childhood doing the job that you've been doing, and I'm really appreciative of it. And good luck in the next venture in your life. I hope you find something fun and it keeps you busy. But moving on, Mayor explained in Mr. Dmitrovich's Village Administrator report, as well as Solicitor Ross, a lot of the things they hit on already are talking about the new updates regarding the parks. I'll let them take that on and they can update us on what they feel is necessary to do with that. Regarding the paving project in the parking lot by the courts and in front of the post office, Thomas did mention that they were looking to maybe consider combining that with some repairs, the emergency repairs that were needed on Oregon, like Mayor stated, and then also working with Fire Social Group on a Memorial Day event, were all things that you guys already hit on. So I'm not going to beat those too much. But other things that I do want to bring up, I want to thank Councilman Harvey for being there in my absence yesterday to keep everybody updated on all the things that were going on. I appreciate that. And then something that was mentioned in the meeting down at the baseball fields, the baseball program shed has been delivered, and from my understanding is in use for them to store some of the things that they need during the summer baseball program. And then there's also something in the works that I'll probably have to get more details from Thomas on. It was real brief that he told me about it, but I thought he was going to be here tonight. But it sounds like the baseball program is trying to find an area, I assume around the baseball fields, to put some artificial turf down for a practice area and potentially batting cages. So I'm going to have to get some more info on that, but that sounds like something that could be very beneficial to anything going on down there. So that's exciting. Other than that, I have nothing unless Mr. Harvey or anybody else feels that I missed anything pertinent from last night's meeting.
Yeah, I'll go over, thank you. Our meeting started at 6:07 with me and Cliff there. The items that were discussed were the Park Summer Program. We're looking at that, seeing how we're going to move forward with that activity. People are seeing some activity down there now with the fences being down, and we received a lot of great information that we're looking through now. And as Doug said, we're going to be going through that and making sure that when we do reopen it, we're following all the guidelines. But a lot of great news to come out. A lot of things are going to be happening, and we're looking to move on with a nice schedule for our summer parks program. A lot of discussion on that. We want to get back to the pink 2019 pre-COVID activities. So we're receiving a lot of information that we're looking over now to help get us into that mode, and we're looking forward to moving forward with getting a lot of our park activities back open again and running. And I thank Thomas and Doug for everybody through all this time, as Ray said, protecting the village, making sure what we're doing is appropriate and with the right attitude and information for us to make our decisions. And I thank them for that and look forward to what we have coming up in the future. It is definitely an exciting time coming up. We also discussed, and everybody, mayors discussed it too, the Memorial Day services coming up. Thomas went into some discussions on things, and they've pretty much been covered. And we closed at 6:28. Thank you.
More comments and questions for Mr. Joins? Moving on to our safety chair, Mr. Dizzy.
Thank you, Mayor. We met here last night on Zoom at 6:05. The fire department had responded to 33 calls for the month of March. They had 2 shut-ins, received COVID-19 vaccinations. The police and fire department assisted with the drive for Alice Spencer, who celebrated her 100th birthday. She's also a, can't think of it now. And also, Chief hasn't heard anything from the Hudson Communications about the finalized programming of our March radio. And I want to thank Chief Stitt for his services. I appreciate everything he ever did. And we closed at 6:06.
Yeah. Comments or questions for Mr. Dizzy? Moving on to our finance and capital improvements chair, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor. We opened at 6:38, closed at 6:43. We did this, Lori did discuss the blanket POs and moving forward with how we're gonna handle those. More info to come with that. Also legislation A that we'll be discussing here shortly. And Mr. Harvey did make a statement about potential stimulus money coming into the village. I haven't made any remarks about that just yet, just because we have not received anything yet, and we're just still waiting to see if that is going to actually come to us. When it does, we'll be a little more vocal about that. So I too want to congratulate Chief Stitt. I hope you enjoy your retirement. I thank you for all your service and everything that you've done for the village, and enjoy yourself. And that's all I have.
Comments or questions for Mr. Schmidt? Moving on to our service chair, Mr. Fisher.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Service met last evening at 6:28, regardless of how terrible my reception was in a field in Newton Falls. So I appreciate your guys' patience. But we did discuss a possible project that would include not only some repairs at the 800 block of Oregon, but also to the 2 parking lots on the 500 block of Ohio and the property adjacent to the city building. Also, in Thomas's report was already mentioned that there is going to be a review for the water tower inspection. We did discuss the fact that the curbside cleanup will be April 20th and 21st for those residents who are wishing to do some extra clean out. You can set everything that you can to the curb, except for, paint and some other construction supplies that would be deemed, I suppose a special kind of, that would require a special C&D landfill license. But that will be listed. I'm sure it'll be on the marquee, but it'll also be on our website. We also discussed the fact that the third-party provider for our workman's comp, our agreement is now a company called Sedgwick. It went from Comp Management to Sedgwick. There was a combination of companies there. The nice thing was that the Sedgwick does continue to hold a place for villages so that we can continue to get a reduction in our workman's comp rating. So that's a nice savings to the village. We also talked about a couple of different contracts that were coming due. One is the fiscal officer's bond that will be taken care of in-house. It's due May the 2nd. We talked about the paramedic backup agreement with Lanes that's due June the 30th. And we also discussed the solicitor's agreement, which I have, and I'll forward to all members of the council so that everybody can be prepared to start voting on that at the next meeting. We did close that meeting at 6:38. If anybody had any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
Comments or questions for Mr. Fisher? Moving on to our planning commission representative, Mr. Fisher.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Planning Commission met yesterday evening at 5:17. Talked about a couple of little light things, but really we met to look over a replat request at 204 East Marshall. We deemed to table that motion because there is a not a dispute, but there's a question on whether or not the county or the village has the right marking, whether it's RA or CA. So we're going to do a little digging into that. And if we have to make a zoning change, we'll address that at the next planning commission meeting. But again, we tabled that for the evening, and we did close that meeting at 5:38. That's all I had. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
Comments or questions for Mr. Fisher? Moving on to our community chest representative, Mr. Dizzy.
Thank you, Mayor, but I have no report.
Comments or questions for Mr. Dizzy? Seeing no remarks from persons or group present. Seeing no old business. No new business. Moving on to legislation. Legislation A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a first reading of a resolution transferring funds within various funds within the Village of McDonald, Ohio for a period beginning January 1, 2021 and ending December 31, 2021.
I move to suspend the rules of council.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt to suspend the rules of council. Discussion. Roll.
Mr. Schmidt,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Fisher.
Aye.
Mr. Dizzy,
Aye.
and Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Move to waive the 3-read process and pass legislation as the first, second, and third read.
Moved by Councilman Schmidt to waive the 3-read process and pass this legislation on the first, second, and third read. Discussion. Roll.
Mr. Schmidt,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Fisher.
Aye.
Mr. Dizzy,
Aye.
and Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Moving on to item 12, the fiscal officer's report. In Mrs. Canada's absence, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, sir. Just the bills this evening. I, Sean Schmidt, Chairman of the Finance and Capital Improvement Committee of the Village of McDonald, Ohio, declare that the bills are true and correct in the amount of $61,823.44, and the money is in the bank to pay them.
I move we accept the VFO's report given by Finance Chair Councilman Schmidt and pay the bills as stated.
Moved by Councilman Lewis to accept the VFO's report and pay all bills. Discussion. Roll.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Fisher,
Aye.
Mr. Dizzy,
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt,
Aye.
Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Moving on to miscellaneous.
Motion to adjourn.
By Councilman Harvey to adjourn. Discussion. Roll.
Mr. Harvey,
Aye.
Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Fisher,
Aye.
Mr. Dizzy,
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt,
Aye.
Mr. Joins.
Aye.
Okay.